Great. Give me 1 second. Good morning, Jim. Let's go ahead and kick off this training call, and I'm going to answer your question. And because we just turned on the recording, I'm going to restate your question as I heard it. The question is, do I know of people that have implemented the Page 5 program, and if so, what are the results? Yeah, I know lots of people that have done it, lots. And the results of, let's put it like this, it's never been detrimental, it's never been a waste of time. It's always been an aha moment. The thing that's come out of actually implementing the Page 5 is what you see on my screen right now, is the power of who. And in Bob Beaudine's book, he talks about everyone you know, you already know someone who knows. Everyone you want to know, you already know someone that can get you in contact with that person. There's a book out there called 6 Degrees, which basically says, you know, within 6 levels of a relationship, the connections are there. And yeah, this is to me, this is a no-brainer. This is just, you know, and I want to start it by getting the right mindset of the continuation sheet. Back in the 90s when I started doing this, we had a 4-page 1003. Now, you could tell I haven't been around the loan business for about 7 or 8 years. The last time I sold my mortgage company was 2006, going into 2007, which in hindsight was just perfect timing. But that said, it was the, you know, the old page 4 of the 1003 loan application. So I went ahead and designed a form, and I did this back in actually 1994, that basically looks like this. And it was the exact same dimensions as the 1003 from Fannie Mae and then Freddie Mac. And it was designed just to continue the loan process. So you go through page 1, what is your, you know, name, social security number, birth date, address. And what I found is that doing this during the time that the client's the most cooperative, which is right up front, when they're trying to get approved, they're hoping that there's nothing wrong on their credit. They're hoping that they have financial viability to be able to execute the transaction. That's the time to extract as much information from the client as possible. And so to answer your question, I'm going to share with you some actual examples of things that have happened. And I think the guy that, the big aha moment was either Will Gandy out of New Orleans and or another guy named Tim Whalen out of Detroit, Michigan, that fought me the most on this, where I was coaching them for the better part of a year, and I kept saying, would you please give me your continuation sheets? And I have many clients that will do these continuation sheets or page 5s, whatever you want to call them. And part of our coaching session is getting on the phone together and strategizing around how to be able to implement and use this. So with that said, Jim, is it okay if I just kind of jump into this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. First thing I did when I created this form is right here I just put the scripting. And what you're talking about, Jim, as far as implementing this as a company or as an organization and extracting it from the loan officer's hands, knowing that most of them are not going to do it. Most of them are going to take a shortcut. They're going to get from the lead to the commission check as fast as they can and step over a lot of missed opportunities along the way. And I think that's a big mistake. And I think you're deciding to do this as an organization or as a department, if you want to call it that, where a person's going to be actually extracting this information is very, very powerful. It's the right thing to do. As a matter of fact, that's what I did with my mortgage companies, you know, back in the 90s, just knowing and getting frustrated with loan officers not wanting to do this and implement it when I know how good it was for them to do. And I heard the results. You know, I've seen the results. And so what you see on the screen right now, this is an actual continuation sheet from Will Gandy. And this was the first one that he ever did. And what blew his mind about this is by implementing this one document, it created for him, from this one borrower, 4 additional loan opportunities. And so when he ended up asking the Hurleys, who's your human resource manager, They gave him a contact. Well, when he contacted the human resource manager because it was a local employer, they're chatting about the Hurleys, and this is a refinance application, by the way. And so somewhere in the conversation, the human resource manager asked the question, so what kind of interest rate are they getting? And he mentioned a rate, and then the human resource manager said, well, we're at 5 3/4. You're at under 4? How's that possible? But if he never had that conversation with the human resource manager and didn't make that introduction, if he just did what the typical loan officer would do, which is just simply mail out a VOE, verification of employment, he would have missed this opportunity. And then he asked the question, do you have an insurance professional that you like and that you're comfortable with? And the insurance professional was referred to him. He reached out to the insurance professional, introduced himself to the insurance professional, and basically said, listen, during the time I was beginning the loan application process here, I asked them, are they happy with their insurance professional, and you came highly recommended. Conversation was continued, a couple of follow-ups. The next thing you know, the insurance professional calls him and refers him another one of their clients that needs to refinance. And this story just goes on and on and on and on around the country, and I hear this over and over and over again. The next field is one that's really important, and this is the part for the radio show. I think the easiest partner to have on a radio show, or even in your mortgage practice, is an estate planning attorney. If you've read anything or know anything about probate avoidance, about protecting a person's assets post passing away, trying to minimize the tax liabilities that you're transferring to your clients or to your family, it's important that a living trust attorney or an estate planning attorney be introduced to every client that we ever close a loan with. And I just think it's part of really caring, and I think it's part of going deep with them. And in this situation, this was a rare one, because 9 times out of 10, the client says, I don't have an estate planning attorney. Well, this person just happened to have just did their estate plan about 6 to 7 months prior to their refinancing. And so they knew the person's name. Eventually, Will Gandy got the phone number, connected with the estate planning attorney. Now, Will had begun this process, and he had 4 other clients that month that he had taken a loan application with that did not have an estate planning attorney. So he used this opportunity to refer those 4 estate planning referrals to this estate planning attorney, just to kind of take the first step in the process of creating relationships and referrals, and try to make that happen in the way of reciprocity. Well, what's come out of that, I just spoke to Will about 4 or 5 months ago, is that Will Gandy has a very, very good relationship with this estate planning attorney, and he now actually has about 4 of these estate planning attorneys. Now, the vast majority of referrals that come from estate planning attorneys are refinance referrals. So as rates start to hedge up, who knows when, they've started a little bit, but this is going to be an area where those referrals are going to go down a little bit, and it's not necessarily the best referral partner long-term in a purchase market, but it's a necessary referral partner on every transaction. Now, I'm going to start from the bottom on this form. This, to me, is a missed opportunity. This was a refinance for the Hurley family. Will Gandy's a loan officer. And Will Gandy asked the question, when you folks bought the home, do you recall the realtor that sold you the home? And they said, oh yeah, Carol McDonald. Would you recommend her? Because I work from time to time with clients that are thinking about buying a property, and I provide the financing for them, and they don't yet have a realtor relationship. Would you mind if I introduce myself to Carol through you and let her know once this transaction is closed, all of the numbers behind the numbers of how you reorganize your finances regarding your real estate? Oh no, please do. Introduce yourself to Carol. Great, let's wait for the transaction to close first. And in that phone call, ring, ring, hi, is this Carol? Yes, it is. Hi, Carol. We have a common client. I just refinanced the Hurley family. And through the process, I reorganized all their finances. I asked them who's the real estate agent that sold the home to them, and they remembered you. They highly recommended you. And I promised them that I would personally make sure that I introduce myself to you and convey to you, just in case you database all of their records and you track their real estate assets, I would share with you the new numbers as far as the reorganized finances on the real estate that you sold them. We were able to lower the rate, lower their payment, shorten their term, whatever the deal was, and we talked to that agent about that. And then we continue with the conversation and say, I'm going to be in the Bethesda area tomorrow, and I've also got to be there next Monday. Again, I promised the Hurleys I'd personally introduce myself to you. I'd like to be able to just stop by your office. We're doing some really kind of cool, fun things over here. I've got a weekly radio show. As a matter of fact, we're planning a radio show 4 weeks from today around the subject of Bethesda current trends, what's going on in housing over there. And maybe I could pre-interview you and we could talk about possibly having you on as one of my expert contributors, as one of my panelists, to be able to chime in and share information regarding what's going on with Bethesda real estate. Let's go ahead and schedule a time for us to meet first, so we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's meet, have a cup of coffee, get to know you a little bit, and if it's right for you to be able to come on our show, we'll then go ahead and cross that T and dot that I. And working up, they had a CPA, right here, financial advisor, CPA, didn't have a divorce or bankruptcy attorney, thank God. That's good. But if they did, my point is this, all of these points of extension, all of these introductions creates warm referral opportunities, and this goes into building your branch's list of approved vendors, of approved people you're willing to do business with. And I referred you earlier, Jim and Karen, 2 letters that you may want to reread a few times before you actually implement this program. It's the referral warm letter that you see on the screen right now and the referral cold letter. And the reason I call them cold and warm is if they give me, the client gives me a name here, that's a warm referral. Hi, Carol, we have a common client. Now, if there is no, if it's a blank field like what you see right here, let's just pretend for 1 second that that blank field was this, meaning the estate plan. That's going to be referral cold introduction. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ron Quintero. I specialize in providing financial solutions for professionals and their clients. In an effort to provide the highest level of service possible, I usually question my client as to the names and contact information of the professionals they have retained for services in non-competing businesses and services. The primary reason I do this is in the event of needing additional documentation to successfully accomplish my client financial solutions objective, I can obtain the necessary paperwork with the least amount of inconvenience to the client. Now, let me go back over to the form for 1 second. If you look at how we end this, I or we hereby authorize the above referenced professionals to release any and all information requested by the mortgage company's name. And keep in mind, you already have one of these with Churchill that I just re-emailed you. So I'll just use that form because it's clear. Let me go back over there. All information requested by Churchill Mortgage Corp as needed to assist in the process of my loan application. I further understand that I am under no obligation to work with any of the referred professionals. So it's a really simple form, and it's just, again, you're getting the client at the beginning of the process, and it's then having the organized database of being able to refer these people out to other opportunities and other professionals. So Jim, I'm going to take a deep breath there and allow you or Karen to ask a question or take us in a different direction.
I think that's a good overview of the process. Are there any, issues that you've seen with people that have come up, kind of unexpected little things to watch out for, or mistakes or missteps that you'd make that, because we're in the process right now of designing the whole flow, because we're not relying on the loan officer to do it. We're not doing it at loan application. Most of our stuff is all done through the mail anyway.
Okay.
The process is that the package will come back, and Karen will make an outbound phone call to the customer with the idea that this call would be viewed by the customer as first off, as a normal part of our process, but also something that's providing value to them. So what we want to do is when we get the package back in, review it, upload it, all the just technical stuff we do in-house, we want to then provide Karen with a list of missing items. Hey, we still need page 5 of the November bank statements. We need another pay stub. Whatever it is we need that they didn't send, which is typical. We want to integrate that as a part of this call so that the call seems normal and not kind of like it's self-serving. So we call, we missing items is one of them, and then she'll also review this form, because this form will have come back in the package too. Sometimes it's been filled out partially, sometimes not at all, but to whatever extent it is, we want her to review the existing package that's come in. So, for instance, if tax returns are in there and there's a CPA indicated, I just want Karen to be informed about the package so that when she's calling, it's not just this kind of disconnected CSR call, but it's as if she's someone who's engaged in the process and already knows them by virtue of having reviewed all their package and everything. So she's going to make that call to then try to fill in the rest of this stuff, but also at the same time, ask for missing documents, providing them value and a logical, non-weird flow kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to be able to answer your question there. At the beginning of it, you kind of formed up, like, what are some of the pitfalls or what are some of the things that can go wrong? I have seen this backfire. When we first started doing it, we were so anxious to get the relationships that we started reaching out to professionals that before the loan closed, and we actually had lost a few clients. And so we would wait for the transaction to close in this scenario before we'd reach out to the real estate agent, because this real estate agent, just by being married to or dating a loan officer, or maybe it's a real estate agent that has a really good working relationship with a loan officer, and they just want to be able to try to fight for business for them. So what we learned is particularly with the real estate people, real estate and the CPAs, we typically want to wait, even the financial advisors, we want to wait for the transaction to close. If we don't need to reach out to them prior to the closing, then we don't. What we learned is wait for the transaction to close. We've received virtually little pushback from the clients. The clients from time to time will say something like, well, why do you need that information? And you just explain it to them. We want to be able to have thorough and complete documentation and awareness of all the people that you do business with. More importantly, we're always looking for recommendations and referrals to good professionals. Our clients have experienced firsthand their level of professionalism and their commitment to service. So the people that you've done business with, possibly we have other people that are seeking that type of professional. And if we could include that professional on our branches, on our company's approved professional list, we'd like to be able to be introduced to them. Does that make sense to you? There's no trickery here. There's no hoodwinking. There's no being cute or fancy or anything like that. It's just being straightforward, transparent, honest. And I also, Jim, as you're doing this as a branch, as an organization, what I think would be fun is to be able to track exactly how many referrals you're sending to what professionals. So you actually have a scoreboard. You know how effective that you've been in sending referrals to these people. And Jim, I know you've been in business long. You know, how long have you been in the mortgage game, Jim?
20 years.
Yeah, and so I've been in the real estate game for 32, and so we've both been in long enough to know that clients get a little quirky sometimes, but for the most part, if you're insistent upon needing the information or the data, they'll pretty much cooperate. You know, if they're not going to cooperate, then it's probably going to be a difficult loan, period. But if we're able to engage with them, extract all this information, and then upon each closing, we then have the letters that we could send out, the referral warm, the referral cold. And over here, I have the estate planning letter. I have one for Control Enter. I have one for the purchase transaction right here. Hope you're all moved in, settled in, boxes are unpacked. And I have the other one for the refinance letter. So if we refinance them, the transaction closed, they don't have an estate planning attorney, we want to send them just like a post-closing follow-up that's very customer service oriented, that we're going through your files, post-closing checklist. Nowhere in your documentation did we see where you had an estate plan. Do you have an estate plan? Do you have some probate avoidance in your life that, God forbid, in the event of your death, your family's protected? I'd hate to see them go through a forced relocation during a very difficult time. Would you mind if I referred you over to an estate planning professional? And if you have a branch that's doing 10 to 15 closings per month, you don't dump 10 to 15 referrals on one estate planning attorney. You spread them around. You send 5 leads to 3 different professionals, or you send 3 leads to 5 different professionals. And you let them know that you have the ability to provide that type of volume each and every month, and let them know that you are referring these other leads out to other professionals, and they're being evaluated, and that your clients are going to give you feedback regarding their professionalism. They're going to give you feedback regarding your timeliness of responding to our clients, how cooperative you are, how friendly you are. We're going to ask them, would they recommend that we continue to recommend that professional? So we're almost kind of like setting it up as a contest or as a game, like you're being Yelp rated. We are going to ask our clients to rate you. And we're now in a rating society. Jim, let me ask you a question. Do you ever look at like Yelp ratings when you're considering a restaurant or anything like that when you're in a different city?
Yeah.
I do too. And now in San Diego anyways, over here, not only are restaurants Yelp rated, but professionals are. And it's something that is just part of our society now, that we have gone to this different matrix now of being able to evaluate professionals. It started with restaurants, but now it's professionals as well. And so, it's just it's part of who we are now. It's part of our society. It's part of how we communicate and market. I think it's critically important. But the only thing that I've seen that could ever go wrong here is by showing your cards a little too early, meaning prior to the transaction closing. And you got to use timing when you want to reach out to a professional and introduce yourself and or your client to that professional.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about any specific tips or whatever on the process of getting in contact with the professional? So you're advising starting out with sending a letter, and then following that with a phone call and an appointment. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And let me find this real quick for the show partner scripting. Give me 1 second here. Oh, it's further up. think it's in bold. Give me 1 second. There it is. So the scripting, this is a sample scripting that we would use to reach out to the attorney. Hello, my name is Ron Quintero. I'm calling on behalf of Jim McQuaig here, radio show host, AM 1170 KCBQ. We are having a show in 4 weeks. We want to be able to reach out to local estate planning attorneys to be a guest on our show. Now, if we're calling as a result of the page 5, I would still use that same opening, and then I would just personalize it along the lines of, I work with Jim McQuaig, branch manager here at Churchill Mortgage Corp in Reston, Virginia, wherever you're at. And we helped a family last month. Now I'm going to go over to the other letter. Here it is, referral cold. In an effort to provide a deeper level of service for our clients, last month I began to ask them the question regarding estate planning professionals that they have a relationship with. We have 3 clients that do not have an estate planning relationship. Jim doesn't want to just refer his clients to any professional. He'd like to be able to schedule a 20 to 30-minute get-to-know one another ice-breaking meeting. When would be good for us to be able to schedule that time for Jim to come by, take a look at your facilities, take a look at your office, make sure that it's something that he wants to be able to refer his clients to. So it's really just being straightforward, super transparent, no manipulative closes and, beating around the bush. It's just a matter of, this is what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, when can we meet? And I just think that the more direct, transparent, authentic, and genuine you are, you don't have to worry about tricky scripts and manipulation, closing skills and all that fun stuff. It's just being as straightforward as you know how. And the people that are the professionals that you're reaching out to that are growing their business, that are leaning into wanting to find more clients and so forth, you got to remember, was that little thing about how can you tell when an attorney is selling? Their lips are moving. When they're communicating back with you, their anxiousness, they're wanting to network with other like-minded professionals. That's all good. Are you going to run into those people that really aren't leaning into it and are just kind of milking their past client base, their book of referrals? Yeah. And that's okay too. We're not going to try to convert anybody. We're not going to try to use tricky scripts and closes to try to change their mind. If they're not going along with the program, then we got to keep on going down that road until we run into the people that are like-minded in the same place we're at. So we're not trying to close anybody. We're not trying to sell anybody. We're just trying to find, and we're just trying to discover like-minded professionals that are at the same place we're at. Does that make sense, Karen?
Yeah, that's great. So you would say if we call the client, we get their list, would you advise sending a letter and following that with a call, or just forgetting the letter and just going straight to the call? What have you seen there?
This is, the formal way is you should send out the letter basically saying, I'll be calling you in the next day or two. That's etiquette. That's professional etiquette. That's what you're supposed to do. Jim, you know me pretty well. I will sometimes just forego etiquette, formality, and just pick up the phone and introduce myself. As an example.
Well, I mean, given that we're building a system that we want to be able to duplicate, I think it's easy enough just to do it the right way. I mean, it's not like we're doing it by the seat of our pants here. So, yeah, that's a good, I like that.
If it were me in your shoes building out a department, I would do the etiquette approach. I'd make that phone call. By the way, Jim, what I'm going to forward you here, give me 1 second. I think this would be helpful for Karen. I recorded myself.
Robert? Hello, Ron. Give me your zip code real quick. 92626. All right. I want to confirm. You know what? Let me go look at it real quick. Give me the URL. Opportunity to develop a relationship with an annuity professional as well as make money.
What this link is that I just sent you, Karen, this file, is me telemarketing estate planning attorneys. I basically assumed the role of being the assistant for my client. And so when I was calling these people, I was calling on behalf of Robert Darvish, who is president of a mortgage company out of Irvine, California. And out of the 3 phone calls that I made, I ended up getting him 2 appointments. And you'll be able to hear the banter going back and forth. Give me 1 second, because I want to just play just a minute or 2 of this, just so you can know what to expect.
That actually will work on that one. And one with the we're in Costa Mesa wrong. We're not in Irvine. I just read right off
Costa Mesa.
Website. Okay. Well, our website is going Irvine. I'll check it out. Are you there? Yeah. Yeah, no, our address is in Costa Mesa. And yeah, people that they know me, by the way, they call me Bobby. So. Okay. It doesn't matter. All right. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to, I've always referred to you as Robert. Yeah. And I didn't have that piece of information, so I just put what I know. All right, you want to do another one? Sure. Okay, give me 1 second.
Now, what he's going to recommend is he had just done a page 5, and he just began the process of doing this. And there was this woman, her last name was Ophelia Saint or something like that, that his borrower did have an estate planning attorney right there. And so what we're doing is, this is when they give us, they said, yes, I do have an estate planner. I have an attorney to set this up with. And let's listen to the conversation.
Lady was very nice. Just come across someone who's not as nice. I want to see how that works. You know what most people don't realize and understand, when you're calling and reaching out to professionals, empower the gatekeeper. Make them feel good about who and what they are. Right. If you notice, I kind of put myself on her level. Hi, I'm Bob's assistant. So we're 2 assistants talking to each other. You're blocking for your person. I'm blocking for mine. Right. You know, and maybe some people that listen to this, by the way, will think that it only works from assistant to assistant. That's not true. So I used to make my own phone calls without an assistant. I'd say, hi, my name is. Here's what I'm looking to accomplish. And I'd go through the whole drill. Right. And then, in the end, what I was looking to accomplish was the appointment for myself. Right. So it works both ways. It works both ways. It absolutely does. Now, you'll get every once in a while a person that will answer. Right. That will just be in a super hurry. Right. It's not even paying attention. And what I'll do is just say, now doesn't sound like a good time. Why don't I call back at a different time? And I get off the phone, and then just document, maybe call back at like 2 days later, when maybe catch them at a more convenient time. Maybe they could be a good relationship, but just at the time that I made my phone call, it was just that timing. Right. All right, give me 1 minute here. I'm going to look at the Google. Then are you going to try this one from Ophelia Saint also? The one for who? From Saint, the one for the conciliation shoot. Give me 1 second. Yeah, we'll do that. Ophelia Saint. Oh, Mr. Bechet. Right. Let's call them right now. Okay, Bechet is the one who, I believe, does did their estate planning. A living trust, he created a living trust for her. And Bradford and McGuire to your divorce attorney. All righty. I'm going to go ahead and call them right now. Okay. Thanks. Hold on. Manage yourself. Up.
Good morning, Bechet Law Offices.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Good. My name's Ron Quintero. Can I tell you real quick before you call?
Sure.
Tell me if I'm on the right path or not.
All right.
I'm calling on behalf of Robert Darvish. He's from Platinum Lending, and this is not a voice solicitation.
Okay.
He works with, actually, he's the owner of Platinum Funding in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
We have a common client. You put together a living trust for a person we just closed a loan for a couple of days ago, named Ophelia Saint.
Right.
And the reason we're calling is we ask our clients questions, what professionals they use.
Right.
And right now, about 90% looking to establish a relationship with a company that we could refer more of our clients to and have that need in their life taken care of.
Sure.
Are you guys interested in possibly creating that type of relationship, or?
Of course. I mean,
We
we're
called
definitely.
a couple of reasons today. We were already giving us a referral to a professional.
Right. We're definitely interested in that regard. How can I say it? I mean, we totally believe in estate planning. It makes total sense in the state of California.
Now, what, Jim? As we continue this for a minute, is this? By the way, is this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to hear her on the other end, but
Okay. Well, I sent you the file, so you'll be able to adjust that. But here's what I want you to just try to listen to: listen to how long she talks and how she's trying to convince me that they're the right law firm for us to meet with.
We need to have a living trust, estate plan. Anybody who's owning a house, it's just that's becoming time bomb. As far as we can tell, if they die without a living trust. So
You know, they need probate avoidance in their life.
absolutely, and it's not just probate avoidance, but we're finding clients are buying their second home, maybe a rental investment, and they need asset protection as well, and we can advise them and help them set that up as well. So I'm not sure exactly what type of clientele you have, but we're definitely looking to help people not just establish living trusts and then be done with it, but really establishing relationships to help them as they're developing and investing and becoming more savvy and sophisticated in their holdings as well. So we really work with them and their CPA and I do business law as well, so any business consultants to really give them a whole, not a piecemeal approach, but an entire approach to their life.
Not like a total solution.
We're trying. We're really, really trying. And if we're not able to, we'll refer them to somebody else who can. Because I don't. There's tax ramifications for doing things. There's life ramifications for doing things. And we really try to look at the whole picture before we make a suggestion of doing one over the other. So we really do take the time to sit down with the clients and assess their needs and listen to them and hear what they want. I mean, some people just really need asset protection, and we'll set them up in that way. And we're becoming more and more savvy on that end as well. So, yeah, I mean, we'd be more than happy to talk with you or just to talk with your clients and see if we can assist them. In that
Well, again,
regard.
I'm Robert's assistant, and he asked me to set up a couple of interviews, 2 or 3 of them for next week if possible. And he says, he wants to find a go-to relationship, and he wants to be able to interview a few people to make sure that he's selecting the right one, which I think is good business sense.
Absolutely, I advise that as well. And
And
he should have 2 or 3 attorneys that he's comfortable referring to. Client A would be comfortable with our office, and client B might not be so much. And so it's just a personality sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely, he should have a few people under his belt.
well, would it be possible for us to schedule a time for Robert to stop by for about 20 to 30 minutes of preliminary get-to-know-you meeting, and
Sure.
for him to be able to drop off some literature about his services and at the same time collect some information about yours and make, if it feels right, have a secondary appointment? I really believe there needs to be kind of the essence match. Does it make sense?
Right.
And if so, then we go to the next level of let's begin a relationship.
Sure.
Is that good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Want to set that up for Tuesday or Wednesday of next week?
So as we're listening to this, and I just sent you the file so you could re-listen to that if you want, what you see on the screen right now, that's the woman that was on the phone call. That's the attorney that I cold called. And she now is basically listed as a preferred professional on Platinum Lending's website. And so the proof is in the pudding. He ended up meeting with her, collecting a whole bunch of literature, really liked her a lot. She's of Middle Eastern descent. He's of Middle Eastern descent. There was a lot of commonality there. There was a lot of bonding. And they also knew some common people that they didn't know that they had these connections. So just by using that continuation sheet, the page 5, and harvesting that information and then making those phone calls. I spoke to Robert Darvish about a year ago. maybe a year and a half, and I made these phone calls back in 2005. I made these phone calls literally 13 years ago, and to this day, that relationship is still in place. You know, what I want you to really take away from this is I wasn't Joe Telemarketer slick guy on the phone. I was a little clumsy. There's a couple times where I should have zipped my lips and let her talk, and I kind of overtook her a little bit in the conversation. So I was, my biggest takeaway, and the reason that I like people to listen to that file, is it's not super polished. It's not this word-for-word scripting, because the problem with scripts is the person on the other end of the phone, they don't have their lines. So the second they throw you a curveball, you're in trouble. You're going to start backpedaling, hemming and hawing, and looking for, you're going to feel and smell like a salesperson. I just think, get on the phone. Do you mind if I tell you right up front what my intentions are? If this is a waste of time, let's go ahead and end this call sooner than later. But if it's the right call, if it's the right connection, we'll continue it. May I tell you the purpose of my call right up front? Sure, we're currently interviewing attorneys that we'd like to be able to create 2 or 3 go-to relationships that we can send our clients to and know that their needs are going to be taken care of. We're looking for an attorney that's in the world of estate planning, asset protection, probate avoidance. Is this you and your company, or should I be calling somebody else?
Good stuff.
It doesn't. I don't think it gets any more raw than that. And at the same time, I don't want to feel like a salesperson making these kind of calls, and I just want to be authentic and genuine and transparent, and just talk to people. And if the person is a jerk, if the person is at a bad place that day, if the person has a bad attitude, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to keep sticking and moving. I'm not going to let you bring me down just because you're down. And I'm just going to keep, I'm just not connecting with the right professional. So I'm just going to keep on going down the road until I connect with the person that's going to be the right match. I don't think there's some scientific way to be able to do this, and maybe there is. And maybe some sales trainer could come up with a really slick way to do this. But I just think it's about making phone calls. And, the proof is in the pudding. It's on the screen right now. 13 years later, this relationship still exists. Is that 13 years? No, that's 10 years later. 8 years later. 8 years later. My math is all screwed up there. Sorry about that.
All right, good. Yeah, I like that.
And if you go to this guy's website, Jim, platinumlending.com,
yeah,
you can just poke around. He'll have like different CPAs and financial advisors like this guy right there. His excuse for going out and actually building this initially was, and then he broke it up by different parts of town. So his goal of doing this was to create his, like for you, what you're doing by creating a department here, which I think is just powerful. I think every branch in the mortgage industry should have this done, because waiting for the loan officer to do it and it not getting done should not be. That's just basically lowering your standards. You're letting the standards be set by your lowest producer. And I love that you're taking the initiative, Jim, to do this for your company. And you may want to eventually do something like what you see here with Robert's website, where they created a holding place of where they could connect with different professionals, and these professionals that want to become a part of their website. Little placeholders of relationships.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, it just seems, we have so many leads, and I think we closed maybe this month 110 loans.
Oh my God.
And so, we're doing 8 states, so we've got these loans are going to be concentrated in metropolitan areas in these states. And so over time, we should be able to build, in essence, what you see with Robert there, we should be able to build, Seattle, Tacoma, Denver, Jacksonville, Raleigh, Charlotte, all different little pods all in all the states that we work. And it's just, we've got so much flow right now that there's just a tremendous opportunity to get this network going. And so instead of just Dave Ramsey leads coming in, we start generating leads from these people as well. And so my goal would be to see us take our current closings, maybe add 40 to 50% to that through these other referrals. And I'm also thinking, referrals from professionals may tend to increase our loan amount on average a little bit as well.
Absolutely. Yep. You know this and I know this. Broke people don't need attorneys. The only attorney they need is a bankruptcy attorney. When you have people that, when you have people that have assets and need asset protection and have multiple properties that they need to protect in a living trust or will, yeah, you're dealing with more of the affluent buyer, that $75,000 plus annual income. You're dealing with a whole different breed here. People that do their own tax returns, they shop at Home Depot and they, do their own repairs, and they probably shop online for the loan. That's not your target client. The client that reaches out says, I'm too busy to do my own taxes. I need a CPA. I need a legal professional, and I'm not going to go to Nolo.com, or I'm not going to go to some do-it-yourself website and try to get it done myself. I'm going to retain the right professional and have it done right. That's the type of client that we want. You're right. You're spot on, Jim. And what you're just saying about your different areas. All right, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
You see that Joanne fan?
Yeah.
I could just see, you guys, for what you're doing, Jim, just imagine, first of all, it'd be, $300 to $500. It costs very little to do a website like this. As a matter of fact, I designed this guy's website, and it's, I'm surprised he hasn't updated it because it's old. It's, I did it 8 years ago. Can you imagine how much traction and how much credibility you'd be able to have out of the blocks if for the areas that you just mentioned, Seattle, Tacoma, and so forth, that you just populated this with the Dave Ramsey ELP network first?
Right.
In all those areas and communities that you just mentioned, you have dozens of pre-existing relationships right now that you could just send a nicely worded letter out, basically describing your just want to share with you part of the ELP network. We here at Churchill have launched a new department. We're launching a new website. We're going to be very proactive in trying to stimulate and create more referrals for our partners. We are looking for an opportunity of reciprocity for it to go back and forth. We'd like to be able to schedule a call about you possibly being added to our website so we can make the introduction to the loans and the clients that we're helping in your community to the professionals that are within that community that can assist them and help them. If I got that letter from a mortgage company, I'm a real estate agent, and they're saying, we're working the Dave Ramsey leads. Well, I just spent a couple $1,000 getting Dave Ramsey trained. I've gotten some Dave Ramsey business, so yeah, I see the viability of this. If I got that letter basically asking, could we meet so I could be added to the website, I'd make that phone call immediately.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Question? Well, we're probably going to launch this next week, I think. Start doing it. So I'll keep you posted on, how it's going. I'm sure we'll run into some stuff we hadn't thought of that maybe you've already seen and we can get some help on. But I appreciate you doing this for us.
Yeah, and Karen, just know that I'd love for you to document and just try to keep like an ongoing open file of either objections or thought processes and so forth. And when you get a couple of them, hit me with an email, because I'd love to be able to hear what you're going through. And more importantly, for myself and my other clients, it helps me keep, sharp, keeps good edge in terms of knowing what you're running into. And most of the time, if you're running into something that is an objection or that's kind of preventing it, most of the time it's a really easy fix. If we know what's broken, we know how to be able to repair it or fix it. And so if you keep that log, I'll be more than happy to continue to assist in terms of getting this department launched and out of the blocks.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, Jim, do you mind if I share this recording with Matt and Mike so they know what we're doing?
Oh, yeah, no, not at all.
All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.